Hello, ladies. Happy Friday. I hope you are well, and I hope this message is finding you in a good space. Last week, we talked about telling hard truths to your partner, and today I thought we would chat about listening to your own hard truths. And so, talking a little bit about your own knowing, your own inner knowing, and maybe some of the things that you don't want to hear that you know to be true, right? It's really easy to spend so much of our time wanting other people to change, right? Wanting somebody else to be able to hear my deep, dark secrets or the parts of me that feel vulnerable. It's a whole different thing if I shift that and look at where is it that I'm really willing to be with my own truths? Where is it that I'm willing to get quiet and to grow a real relationship with my own self, my own heart? So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jenny Glick. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm a certified sex therapist. I live in Mexico, which is why it's summer all the time in my attire. And I have worked with couples and families in a variety of ways for over 20, going on 25 years now, a long time. I'm that old. So it's one of the wonderful things about doing this and getting closer and closer to 50 now is I've seen a lot, and I have seen a lot of what works and what doesn't work. What I do now with women is something that is very outcome driven. And what I want to talk with you about today is what you even want your outcomes to be. So if you're here listening to this, then likely you're in a place where your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your teenage kids is not how it is that you want it to be. You want it to be different, right? And that's a good thing because number one, that tells me that you are a growth-oriented person. I pretty much work with women who are growth-oriented. So they're often looking at getting physically stronger, at getting more degrees or learning more, or they have lots of art and craft hobbies. They are expanding themselves, right? And in the way that I think about relationships and relationship mastery is that some of us always want to be expanding ourselves, right? I'm a much better mother now than I was 16 years ago because I know so much more now, right? I have more patience, I have more understanding. And I hope that it is that I'm a better wife now than I was 20 years ago. I know that I am. And that I will be even better in another 20 years. So if you are a growth-minded person, hang out, okay? This is your space because it's about expanding more, gaining more mastery, gaining more ease. Towards the end of this video, I'm going to read to you one of the celebrations of one of my women clients who just graduated from my 8-week program this week, and she's going into our graduate space. And I want you to hear from a regular person like you who found me and decided to embark on this path, and a little bit of where she is now after doing this work. So, what are some truths that you don't want to hear? What's knocking in your heart, in your mind, in your being that you don't want to listen to? And here's a clue, is that it keeps coming up over and over and over again. So I spoke with a woman this morning who has not initiated a hard conversation with her husband for going on 2 years. And she put it off because young kid, moving, job, then she was traveling extensively, then COVID, and now, they're in like winter, lockdown, right? And so she's 2 years of being in this place of not wanting to be married anymore, and not knowing how to show up and have that conversation with her husband. And so what's happening physically with her is her anxiety's going through the roof. She started taking meds, which is great. Meds are great for people when they're great. Awesome. Nothing wrong with that at all. She's having heart palpitations. She's having a hard time sleeping at night. She's distressed and distracted. She backed into her garage because she didn't click the button to make it go up. There have been a number of things that have started to happen for her because she's in an emotional state of distress, because there's something in her life that she needs to take some action on, right? And the cool thing about being human and living in this world is that our world is constantly giving us feedback. We're constantly getting feedback. So she's getting feedback backing into the garage door. She's getting feedback racing heart. She's getting feedback going and talking to her primary care physician who's adjusting her meds. She's getting feedback from her child who is, reacting to her being short and feeling stressed out, and he's having more tantrums and having some issues at school. So again, this isn't like her fault, right? For any of us, none of this is about fault or blame, but it's about looking at what the feedback is that the world is giving you, right? She's in distress, in a state of dis-ease, right? Because her world is saying, this doesn't work. I can't do this anymore, right? She said, I feel like I'm being suffocated. And I said, it's because you are, right? And it's easy for her to feel like her husband is the one who's suffocating her. And believe me, he has his issues, okay? So not about that. But she's suffocating herself because she's not speaking what's going on for her, right? And like many of you are in this situation where if she tries to bring something up, he gets defended, shuts her down, tell her she's wrong, she doesn't know what she's talking about, so she just shuts it down, right? That's why we learn in relationship, like, I'm not gonna bring this up because if I bring it up, we're just gonna have a fight, and I don't wanna have a fight, so I'm not gonna do that. I 100% get that. And what ends up happening is we become our own jailer, right? I use this analogy a lot with the women who I mentor, that they're in prison, their own cage, but the door's open, right? And as I'm saying this to you, if you're feeling a little activated about it, great. I love that, because that means maybe I'm touching on something. And I can't be a good way shower, a good mentor for anyone if I'm going to expect that you're going to stay in the comfort zone. We don't change in the comfort zone. We change when we have the conversation that we've been putting off with our husband for 2 years. That's not easy, and it's not going to get any easier. There's nothing easy about having it, right? And she well knows at this point that she's going to say, yeah, this thing happened 2 years ago, and I'm bringing it up now. And he's going to be like, why did you bring it up now? What about all those vacations? What about, right? All of that stuff. You all know how that goes. And yeah, I understand that from his perspective. And I also understand from her perspective, she feels like she can't bring it up. But there's a part of her that she's not listening to, because listening is not just about knowing this doesn't feel right. It's doing something with it. Doing something with it. And my role as a mentor, as a guide, as a way shower is to help women do something with their knowing. First, we do need to listen in to what is my knowing? What do I have here? What's my truth? That's where we start. And for some women who I work with, they don't know, right? They don't even know, because monkey mind is going, because all of that internal doubt, and there's nothing wrong with doubt. I'll talk about doubt in another training sometime, because doubt is functional, in a lot of ways to make sure that we're looking at all the things that we should be looking at. But when we have a practice of self-abandoning, which I write about a lot, when we have a practice of self-abandoning, when we have a practice of allowing monkey mind to go, 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 when we have a practice of putting everybody else's needs, wants in front of our own, when we have a practice of being overscheduled, overbusy, overwhelmed, distracting ourselves, when we have a practice of not being in relationship with our own self, it's going to be incredibly difficult to listen to our own truths. And your own truth might be, wow, this conversation is really important because not having it is costing me my health. And there's no price tag on health. In my world, there's no price tag on emotional well-being either. If you don't have your health and if you don't have a sense of internal well-being, like what? Right? You can't enjoy everything else. You need to have those things first. And the only people who are in charge of my physical health and my emotional well-being are me. That's it. So I'm either in the cage that I have built and the door is open, right? Or I am walking outside of the cage and liberating myself in the big, big world that's going to be very unknown. You know, one of the reasons why we don't listen to our own truths, right? And I'm gonna really, I wanna make sure that you really get this. One of the reasons why I don't listen to my truth is then I get to stay in the cage. And that sounds crazy. Like, why would I wanna be in the cage, Jenny? Because it's known, that's why. Why would this woman who I have known for 2 years not tell her husband something that she knows is true and has been true for a very long time, right? Because the cage is comfort. The cage is also all of the barriers that we say, I don't have time. We have a kid going into high school. We just moved. We just, whatever, right? Those are all the bars of the cage. And I'm not saying that those things aren't true. Those are real things, right? And if I'm not willing to look at the real truth, that this is the cage that I have put myself in, and as long as I make these bars something that tell me I need to stay in this cage, rather than saying, oh, these bars are an invitation to get more creative than this prison I've put myself in. How do I do that? Right? In my world, because this is how I am, I hire people who are outside of the cage to help me because I don't know how to get outside. I just hired somebody this week to help me with something. I don't know how to do it. She knows how to do it. She's outside the cage. I'm not. All I see are bars, 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 right? That's it. And I'm like, I know those bars aren't real. I know I can create whatever I want to, put my mind, my heart to. It might take a minute, but I need to have somebody else with some expertise who's living outside of the cage. Help. And what I found, because I've been doing that for a long time, you know, and I have people in my profession, you know, I'm a trained therapist, say, you're so lucky, you're so successful. And I'm like, I'm not lucky. I hire people to help me who are already on the other side, who are somewhere where I want to be, right? When we moved to Mexico, I hired somebody to help me because I've never moved to Mexico before. I don't know how to do that, right? She was already here. She knew how to do it. She was amazing. She became my neighbor and a good friend. Wonderful, win-win all the way around, right? And so what are the truths that you don't want to listen to? If you find yourself in a cage, what is it that you're not listening to around that? Do you need help getting out? Some of you are DIYers. Awesome, do it yourself. What do you need to do? What do you need to commit to? Some of you are people like me who are like, help, walk me through that door. Great, DM me, let's have a conversation. It's shockingly not rocket science. And it does 1,000% require us to listen to ourselves and say, I want to do this really scary thing called moving my family to Mexico. And it scares me. And there are about 2,800 bars that tell me I shouldn't do it. but I have a dream and an idea, and I'm wondering if I can make it happen if I had the right kind of help, right? So I want to share with you, and I'm anonymizing this, because sometimes people ask me, well, what's it like on the other side of the cage when women, work with me? So I have an 8-week experience. It's very white glove, and I get to know you, and you are in my inner circle for a lot of women for a long time, not just the 8 weeks, because we have a graduate space where most of my women go, and we do ongoing calls there. And it's really amazing. And so one of the women who graduated this week, I won't use her name, she shared a handful of takeaways in our space. And I just want to highlight one or two of them because they're important for those of you who they resonate with, right? I'm a big believer that when you meet or find someone who you feel like is a fit, at least for me, I stay close to them. If I feel like they're speaking my language, then I'm like, oh, I want to be close to that person because they're somewhere that I want to be, right? So if any of these words resonate with you, that's amazing. So this woman started working with me 8 weeks ago, and she not married, in a dating relationship, and wanting to come back into healthier relationship with herself so that she could also be in healthier relationship with others. And here are a couple of things that she said is that now she gets to have this experience, quote, of being alive in her human body. In her human body, she's rooted in a sense of responsibility and having this great gift of being alive, that she will always remember that first she's a lover to herself. And I have to tell you, since I had the great gift of seeing her before and that this is her after, it's a pretty extraordinary shift. One of the other pieces that she shared is that she can be in direct communication with the higher version of herself. Those of you who've been around for a while know I talk about your 2.0 self, or the higher version of herself, and that she can be in relationship with that part of her while knowing that she's a grown adult and she has overcome so much, and that she's a woman who lives in her truth and power. As a citizen of the world, she gets to live on purpose and be joy, that she's her own shelter, her own nourishment, her own source of love. And when she wanders, she can flow back into that higher state with ease and compassion. And then finally, we talk a lot about gripping and learning to release, because so many of us have a practice of gripping, of being tight. We talk about, for those of you who've been following self-help culture and things like that, a lot of surrender. Well, you can't surrender if you don't have ground or anchoring underneath you. You're not going to open your hand if you're not standing on terra firma, right? So you have to get your ground under you. And so she said, I don't need gripping anymore. No more gripping all day, every day. The clenching need for 100% certainty does not serve my growth path. Every day I'm learning to lean into ease. I'm more worthy of letting go and allowing. She goes on, but I'll stop there. I think that what is so important for us as women, because all of us are way showers to the community around us, to our children and to our families, our local neighborhood, wherever it is that we might be, that when you show up in relationship with yourself in such a way that you learn how to really listen to your own truths, when you learn how to really listen to how expensive is it for me to stay in the jail that I've put myself in? What does it cost me to stay stuck? What does it cost me physically? That's where I see it a lot, either physically over-exercising or abandoning physical health in a number of ways. I talk a lot to women who have panic attacks, who have racing hearts, who drink more than what they know that they should, who avoid, who are not as keyed into their kids as they'd like to be because they're distracted, they're in their monkey mind, who are missing daily opportunities to connect with their partner. And again, who can put a price tag on any of that? It's such a weird thing to try to quantify, having an entire year where you aren't in deep connection with yourself or your partner because you're in a state of gripping or overwhelm. What is that worth monetarily? I don't know. To me, it's like everything. It's way better now that I'm healthier with my husband. So much nicer to wake up and be happy that he's on the other side of the bed rather than miserable and thinking, oh my gosh, another day wondering if I should stay or go, right? I spent 10 years in that place, maybe more, a long time. And it was terrible. It was terrible. So I'm on the other side, and I hope that this is of service to some of you here. If you are interested in getting on the other side and having support and guidance to do that, send me a DM. I'd be happy to chat with you. I'm easy to find, easy to get in touch with. I can answer some questions for you, and I will ask you some questions to see if we're a fit. Very goal-oriented in what I do. It's important for me to get you from point A to point B, so I'd want to know what your point B is. Take good care. Hope you are doing so well out there in the big, big world, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.